July 4th of 2004. While most Americans were warming up their grills for their annual 4th of July barbecue, Walter and Nancy Bohaty embarked on a grand adventure in the UK. We spent our 4th at the Royal Show in Stoneleigh Park, Warwickshire, England. The British White Cattle Show started at 12:30. The ring steward, Andrew Oldroyd, shown on the left, and the cattle judge, Jay Waring, on the right, are busy preparing for the show events. We noticed their formal attire was quite different from the apparel worn at the cattle shows we have here in the U.S. Back at the barns, the sounds of and most of the scenes are quite familiar, except each showman wears a white coat over which they have a harness with their exhibitor number. Angela Hamilton, breed secretary, has set up a nice display for the breed. Out to the show ring, the cow-calf pairs are the first to be shown. Notice that the cattle talk to each other during their events too.
From infrastructural development and everything else. And there's a tendency as well at the moment for those are areas which are dependent on good associated.
Winner of the cow-calf show was Dr. Christabel Barron of the Whispers herd. Still another contestant some of you might recognize from their visit to the U.S. in 2002 is Angela Dunn and David Evans. The senior heifer show was next.
Yeah, really. The others are paying
I wasn't
Okay,
but I mean for the area given.
well, actually, yeah.
I think it's a price per square.
Yeah.
Whatever.
And the winner is Angela Pink Angie Hamilton. Her Pink Angie nickname comes from her pink livestock trailer and her numerous pink shirts. It also distinguishes her from Angela Hamilton, the breed secretary, and Angela Dunn, or Blonde Angie. The junior heifer class show is next. Winner of the junior heifer show was Legan Farms, Ron and Sheila Clark, owners. The heifer was led by Scott. Notice that the first place ribbons in their show are red, which is equivalent to our purple here in the U.S. Senior bull class. It took us a while to understand them as they speak English instead of American.
Thank you. Nothing to do with the heifer.
You're going to have a trot out,
Run out in the hills and long outer coat.
Take us through the
This is a
brisket
champion bull.
And ice cream
That's
pink
only
as well,
for
rather
light.
craze.
but it gives it, the other two bulls give them length and character. The last bull was courser through the mountains. If you look in its locomotion,
Here is Anna Cook with Albany Playboy. At least here you can see Anna, as she isn't hidden by the bull. Leslie Cook holds the bull for the judge's appraisal. The bull's name is Dally Ash's Heart of Oak. Leslie Cook was the judge at the 2001 Barnesville Show and Sale. Du Bois Harlequin was being shown here by David Evans at the halter and Angela Dunn as the showman. These are the junior bulls.
Using to watch the cattle photographers trying to get these cattle absolutely perfectly posed for the photographs to go down in the records of the Royal Agricultural Society are doing this year is photographing all champions under the logo which is down there by the limousine building.
The Junior Bull class winner is De Boivier Memel, shown by Angela Dunn, with David Evans as showman. Angela Hamilton, breed secretary, has asked Walter to present the trophy for the overall breed champion. Here he is, presenting the cup to Dr. Christabel Barron with her senior bull, Whispers Winsome. The British White Show at the Royal is over, and here's the overall breed champion set up for the official picture of the Royal sign. Show's over. Time to rest and grab a snack.
Do you want to stay around? Okay, we're going to this way. I hope it's open. We'll be back before 7.
Here we are standing in front of the White Park display at the Rare Breed Survival Trust exhibit at the Royal Show. Notice it's well in the afternoon and we're still wearing our jackets. This picture really shows the expanse of the White Park's lyre-shaped horns. Their color resembles the British White, but their DNA results show them to be a completely separate breed. This is Colin Cook, owner of the Faygate herd at Lear. Next to Colin Cook in this picture is Nell Matheson, who is our gracious hostess and tour guide. Nell drove us to all the herds and allowed us to stay in her home while we toured the country. She is well known and respected for her expertise with the cattle and is an inspector for the British White Society of England. Her dark-colored Land Rover named Gilbert can really travel. Just ask Joanne Voss how hard it was to keep up with Nell in her 4-cylinder rental car. These are some of the cattle of the Faygate herd. The trees in the background have their own legendary story. These trees have a canal on the other side, so their roots are solid on only one side. The legend goes that there was a big wind came up and blew down those trees flat to the ground. The village people came out and started to cut wood off of them to use for firewood. As they were cutting, the trees suddenly stood straight up again and are still here today. This curious cow shows how their friendly disposition is similar to the British Whites we have here in the U.S. The man with the beard here is Derek Robinson. He is an engineer and inspects highway bridges as well as raising British White cattle. Derek picked us up at the airport and was very helpful throughout our stay in England. He went out of his way and had to travel many extra miles to help those of us from the U.S. so we didn't get lost traveling around England. Shown here is Joanne Voss and Merle Brown of Eugene, Oregon, British White members who were touring the herds with us. Most of you know Jimmy West of Comanale, Texas on the left and Field McConnell of Glendon, Minnesota on the right. Jimmy was Field's navigator and alarm sounder to keep him driving safely. Field has driven in England before. However, he admitted that it is challenging driving on the wrong side of the road and trying to find his way through some of those roundabouts. He and Jimmy drove around one roundabout about 3 times or more trying to find the right road to get on. I'll bet he'd rather fly into London's Gatwick Airport than drive across England. Pauline Cook has a beautiful English garden as shown in these pictures. She's also a very good cook and served us a delicious lunch while we were at their farm. They have a well-kept garden aided by their greenhouse. The beautiful color and fragrant smell of Pauline's flowers filled the air. Colin Cook's home viewed from their garden. This fountain is part of Pauline's garden. From the sunroom and porch, the garden is stunning. Pauline Cook is showing me her vegetable garden. This scene over a stone fence was our first introduction to Mick Wright's farm. Mick runs several hundred head of sheep and is England's largest exporter of sheep. Pictured here is Mick Wright, owner of the Castleton herd. Joanne Voss and I are standing next to Mick, listening to him describe his herd and his operation.
This is the Castleton herd. Bull.
This footage is of the Polaris bull. Mick Wright has drawn semen on this bull and has had it cleared for export to the U.S. Heffingham Polaris semen is available for purchase from Hawkeye Breeders of Adel, Iowa for $30 a straw. This is some video of one of Mick's best cows. All pastures are divided by hawthorn hedges which are planted to be used as fences. These pastures are usually quite small, 15 acres or less. The hedges are planted right up next to the roads, making the roads narrow and obstructing the view into the fields and pastures. This is the Tree Tower Castle, which is located outside of Crickhowell. We also toured the manor house, which was built near the castle. A movie named The Libertine, starring Johnny Depp and John Malkovich, was filmed at this manor house and is being released this year. This is a typical English pub where we ate at Crickhowell. On the fourth day, we visited the farmer's market at Frome, where Nell works. This English lady was kind enough to pose for us, showing the raspberries she was selling. They were huge! Nell's boss, Peter, took time from his busy schedule to explain how the farmer's market works in England.
Obviously that meant that people were gearing themselves up cereals or beef to a system which is going to be on a farm level payment, so it would be based entirely on the acreage of your holding. So it will extensify farming in Europe, and it's the same across the whole of Europe. So quite clearly it will, if a man's going to receive his block of subsidy, whether he's producing cattle at 2 to the acre or 1 to the acre, he's going to say, well, unless I can make a production margin out of those cattle, I'm going to be extensifying and take the subsidy. Because literally, over the last 5 years, people have been farming for subsidy. That, for a livestock auctioneer, is bad news, because it will mean production levels fall, less dairy farmers, less suckler men. We rely on a throughput.
over the last 5 years, as prices have fallen, we have increased slowly from about 2.5% to 3% our commission rates here. But you can only do so much, otherwise then people will start direct selling over to an abattoir or through group organisations and take us. Good morning. So we've tended to change it slightly, keep a standard rate, which we have done for the last 3 years of 3%, but introduce a minimum. So if there is stock that's below average quality, if you like, we will charge them, because we've got certain fixed costs obviously that we have to cover, so that we will charge essentially a baby calf £5 a head to sell that, and a lamb we're charging about £1.20 a head, a fat beast £15 a head, and a store beast about a tenner. And obviously if the store beast makes £500 and we're charging 3%, we're making 15 out of it, but if it's only making £250 and we're charging 3%, then we still take the tenner.
This is Peter conducting the auction for the fat cattle at the market.
82, 82, half, 3, half, 4, half, 5, 85, 85, 85, now 5, 5, sold it away then at 85, 5, John King, 85, 5. Bernadette with swift recovery, he's come through his operation.
Michael Jones, a local British white breeder, was at the auction and explained much of what was happening and how it is different from our U.S. auctions. He was very informative and helped us understand their marketing system. The farmers market also had a rubbish sale, which is like our flea market. Here you see Jimmy and I with the trunk, which she bought at the rubbish sale for £1. We all had a good laugh when she bought that trunk. With no key. To top it off, she didn't have a clue how she would get it to the airport to be shipped home. After laughing and joking with her for quite a while, we decided that the trunk would go back to the rubbish sale next week to be sold again. After dinner at the farmer's market, we toured Nell Matheson's cattle, the Dadley herd. This is one of Nell's favorite cows. From Nell's pasture, we could see on a nearby hill the picture of this white horse. The Westbury White Horse is the oldest white horse in Wiltshire. Local tradition states that it was cut as a memorial to one of King Alfred's victories over the Danes. This is Nell's main herd bull, affectionately called Monster. Nell is breeding her cattle for a large frame and sound feet and legs. She's very stern about culling if her animals don't meet her expectations for structural correctness and color. This picture is of Nell's mother, the Lady Matheson, who came from Scotland. Nell's father was the head bodyguard for the Queen Elizabeth. These old paintings are hanging on the wall in Nell's house. General Matheson, Nell's grandfather, was head of the British Army in Pakistan in the 1920s. When he left that country to come home to England, the leaders of the opposing army sent him a message saying General Matheson was a jolly good adversary and they were sorry to see him go. Ron and Sheila Clark, shown in the center here, are the owners of the Lagan herd at Gillingham, where they operate the Funny Farm. This part of their operation is one where families come bringing their children for food and fun. They have a McDonald's-type playroom for the kids and can also host birthday parties. Ron and Sheila belong to the Rare Breed Society and are working to breed some of the rare breeds of animals. These rare Tamworth pigs come from Staffordshire. They also breed the endangered Irish mole cattle, a red and white breed that resembles our red-pointed British whites. They also raised belted and dun Galloways.
Horned cow here is a Dorset.
This is a rare breed of Welsh sheep, which are white with black points. They're called Kerry Hill, and they're also raised by the Clarks. The Lagan British White Herd Bull, de Boisvert Louis, shown here is a half-brother to Huckleberry Finn. These are some more of the Lagan British White cattle. On the way back to Nell's, we stopped at Nunney to visit the local castle. This is a rare 14th century castle. The castle was bombed and is being rebuilt. This is the bridge over the castle moat. The castle was built in 1373 by Sir John de Melarc, who spent much of his life fighting alongside the Black Prince in southwest France. It copies the castle which Sir John saw there, rectangular keeps with large round towers at each corner, crowned with conical roofs. The towers were joined by a single continuous fighting platform at battlement level. The first two floors housed service rooms, including a kitchen. Over these was the Great Hall, with additional chambers in the towers. Higher again were chambers reserved for the Lord and his family, with a chapel in the southwest tower. The castle was altered in the Elizabethan period, including the addition of a grand stair in the northeast turret, but was damaged and abandoned after a short siege in the Civil War. This is a picture of a typical house with a church tower in the background, taken out the castle window at Nunney. The last night at Nell's home, we spent touring her gardens. This is a view from the glassed-in conservatory in her home. Jimmy and Phil joined us for a garden tour and the evening meal. One of the highlights of our trip was helping Nell prepare this last meal at her home. Laughter rang from the walls of her small kitchen as we listened to Nell's stories and Field's jokes. We truly had an enjoyable time staying with Nell, as she is a gracious hostess. The meal we created together consisted of roast pork with new potatoes seasoned with herbs, followed by gooseberry fool. It just doesn't get any better than this. Henry Cater owns the Saul House herd and is one of the leaders of the British White Cattle Society in England. These pictures are of Henry Cater's Sull House herd. This is Kelmarsh Hall. The estate is owned by a trust and has one of the larger herds of British white cattle. This is one of the directors of the Kelmarsh Trust talking to Jimmy. Just look at the elaborate Kelmarsh gardens. It takes a lot of full-time gardeners to keep everything looking this lush and beautiful. It seems that every place we visited had their own version of these formal English gardens. There used to be a barn between Kelmarsh Hall and the Kelmarsh Church. The former owners insisted that the barn be torn down as it blocked their view of the church, which is shown here. These pictures are the Kelmarsh cattle. The neighbors' curious llamas looked at us over the fence. Ripon Hall by Norwich is the home of the Hevingham herd. Their herd was started in 1918 as the Baldwich herd. Hevingham is owned by Miss Diana Burbeck in the middle and her sisters Carolyn Holmes to the right and Mrs. Shaw on the left. The sisters served all of us a wonderful meal in their home. One of their herd sires is Hevingham Domingo, shown here. This is their other herd sire, De Boiver Harlequin. These are some of the Hevingham cattle. Here's a nice heifer from the Hevingham herd. Notice how lush and green the grass is. This was typical of the pastures and all the herds we visited. Carolyn Holmes here is telling Jimmy and I about their herd. Angela Hamilton, pictured on the right, was the coordinator of this whole British white gathering. She did a super job of getting everyone organized and having a place for all of the U.S. visitors to stay. She also organized the meetings and many of the meals we enjoyed. We really appreciate all of her hard work. Angela Hamilton is not only the breed secretary of the British White Cattle Society, but also the herdsman for the Wood Bastwick herd, owned by Albemarle or Albie Cater. The Wood Bastwick estate has the largest British white herd in the UK. The estate produces wheat, sugar beets, malted barley, and has potatoes, carrots, and bulbs on rented out acres. All of the older homes on the estate have thatched roofs as shown here and are painted white and black like British white cattle. Here are some pictures of the Wood Bastwick herd. Here's one of the herd sires for the Wood Bastwick herd. Here's another herd sire for the Wood Bastwick herd. These stills are some of Albie Cater's cows. On our 7.5-hour flight home, we had time to reflect on our 11-day adventure. We are indeed lucky and blessed to be able to interact with so many enthusiastic British white cattle producers whose goals are similar to our own, to preserve and improve the genetics of this outstanding breed of cattle. We would like to thank everyone involved in making this a memorable event for us. We'd especially like to thank Nell, who invited us into her home and went way beyond the call of duty to show us around her country.